Good morning, Casa de Fe, and hi, I'm Steve, and for those of you who haven't met me yet, I'm the lead pastor here at WesGate, and also I was the guy who met Andy while he was in seminary and served as a professor, and it's just been an honor to pastor with him, alongside of him, for the years that we've been together. And it's very natural that in the process of growth and the process of age, that things are going to change. And we've been able to partner together now for several years. It's been an exciting journey. I consider you co-workers with us as we try to bring the gospel of Jesus to our city. But I've got some really exciting news that I want to share with you about what's coming up for WesGate Church as a whole. 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago now, when Dana and I came to San Jose and started working at WesGate, to be honest with you, it was my first lead pastor position, and I was just hoping to do a good enough job where they didn't want to fire me. And then after we put some years together, I was like, man, maybe we can build a team here to really have some staying power and hang around for a while. And then after about 10 years or so, I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be just awesome if I could actually finish at the place that I start? The first place I'm a lead pastor, if I could just be faithful, work together with some folks, have a great team around us, and Dana and I could finish our time, and the healthiest, most dramatic answer to prayer would be that I would have an opportunity to finish at WesGate. That was always the plan. That was always the goal, that things would go well enough, that I'd eventually get old enough, that we would want to pass responsibility, we would want to pass some of the leadership to a next generation of people. That's the healthy answer to prayer that we're experiencing. And it's been funny, but my whole life I've been told that retirement's not in the Bible, that it's just not in there. And I've actually taught that it's not in there. But the fact is, it is. Numbers chapter 8 says this, verse 23. The Lord instructed Moses, "This is the rule the Levites must follow. They must begin serving in the tabernacle at age 25, and they must retire at age 50. Yes, the word retire there means, literally, it's a compound word, means no work. This is what it says after that, though. After retirement, they may assist their fellow Levites serving as guards at the tabernacle." That God actually understood that there's a natural transition that happens from generation to generation to generation. And that's the healthy model. The truth is that we just don't usually see it done in a healthy way. Usually it doesn't work. Somebody leaves, somebody gets mad and quits, whatever. But the healthy model is that actually someone stays, they serve for a particular amount of time, and then at the end of that time, they transfer what they're responsible for the outworkings of the ministry. If we use the Numbers 8 passage as an example, setting up the tent and setting up the offerings and setting up where they're going to do sacrifices and the feasts and all of those kinds of things. And then to serve as guards. Now, not guards, don't think, although the same term is used for guards in a military respect in the Bible, here, it would be more of serving as guards, watching over that things continue as they are intended to be done. And we're in a chapter now where I believe it's just super exciting that we get to the chance where we are actually transferring responsibilities. That we're going to hand over the position of lead pastor, which I've functioned in for a little over 20 years. We're going to hand that over to Jay. And that Jay is now going to, with all of his youthful energy and all of his gifts and talents, take us to the next level. Move us ahead to the next place. I couldn't be more excited about handing it off to someone better than this. He's my choice. He's the person I believe with all of my heart and soul is the person to take WesGate to a next level, that Dana and I are going to be able to see WesGate continue to grow. And then we'll still be around, still actually be on staff for some time. And we're going to serve as coaches and as guards to help make sure that Jay doesn't make the same mistakes I made. And make sure that he has us as a resource to be able to coach him through. That retirement is not, I get old and I quit and I move to Florida. Nothing against Florida. But instead, I transition to another role, staying part of the community and living in this, what Dana and I are calling our third adventure. I'd love you to hear a little bit from Dana about how we're processing this. I'm going to bring her on up now. Over 5 years ago, we began the process of talking to the elders and talking about succession. Not because we were ready to necessarily stop, but just because we wanted the dialogue to begin. We kind of put the dialogue aside for a little bit until about 5 years ago when I turned 60 and Dana turned much younger.
Yes.
And we began to seriously study the whole process of succession. We began to read books together. Dana and I began to spend some time with people who have done this journey already, and they're a little bit ahead of us in this journey, and try to learn and discern from them. And then it was 3 years ago that Jay and I began discussions about the possibilities of what this might be like. And then, of course, a little over a year ago now, that the elders agreed to hire Jay and to then affirm him. And so this past August, after him being employed here for a year, the elders unanimously chose Jay as the successor at WesGate to come in behind me.
Yeah. I remember tons and tons of conversations between Steve and Jay over the phone or meeting for lunch and so forth. And Steve would say, yeah, I thought maybe this would be an issue. And as we talked about it, we just both came to the same place. And it's really, he's the person that I could think of anyone I could choose. Jay's the one that I want to continue the work here at WesGate, to lead WesGate into the next season and journey.
Yeah, and of course it didn't hurt that he had already worked here, and we knew him and loved him and Jenny. But it was, I can remember those meetings, and I would be like, oh, this is going to deal. And each time that even Jay or I brought something to the table, and we thought, oh, this might not work. This might be a point that really kind of hangs us up. Miraculously, I think, especially as opinionated as I am, we would end up on the same page, and it was
He's not very opinionated.
It was quite affirming for us in this whole process, because it's been scary for us too.
It has. We haven't always known what God was calling us to for the next season, but we knew that it was getting to that time. We went way past that 50-year-old thing in the scripture. But
65's the old 50.
Yeah, but it's exciting for us to see what's the next season. What does it look like? How can we partner with the younger generations to make it stronger, to make it not us just leaving, but us saying, how can we continue to just serve what's going on around here? And the staff, many knew Jay from before, but newer staff getting to know him over the last year, the elders getting to know him, taking a long process to say, this is what we think God is calling us to, but really praying through it, having conversations, growing in relationship, to then say, no, we sense God's movement at this time, in this season.
And the elders have been super generous with us. I want you to know that we have been, our whole time at WesGate, we've been well cared for, and we're going into this next season well cared for as well. We're allowed to, as long as it's really helpful and it's really helping move WesGate forward, we're going to be around some, we'll have a role that works for Jay. He's going to be the lead guy. I've got to somehow step back, but we're going to try to do that, and you're going to try to do that, and together we think that it's a beautiful thing that generations don't go away, but they stay connected and continue to journey together. And so we're super excited about the opportunity to try to model this in a way that really does bring health and is really exciting.
Yeah, this a couple of weeks ago, I was talking with the Saratoga staff, and just an idea of what it looks like came to my mind, and I shared with them, we're not moving on, we're the grandparents now. We're the ones that get to have the fun and not necessarily all the responsibility, and get to do the things, just pick the pieces that really are in our strengths and the things that we really enjoyed doing. We both really want to continue to build into the churches of San Jose, not just WesGate. And so our desire and hope is that we'll be able to come alongside many other pastoring couples and help build up their marriages, build up their relationships, all those types of things, so that the church in San Jose continues to be strong in what God wants it to be here. It's very difficult to do ministry in this area. All of you know how busy it is and the pressures financially and all of that. And we want to come alongside some of the younger generations as they do the day-to-day tasks, so that we can support them and encourage them.
Yeah, and especially smaller churches who don't have the resources of a community like WesGate to help them along. And so we're really thrilled about that as well. And the elders, again, have affirmed that in us and are working with us to try to allow us to do that. I want to give you an opportunity also to hear from Jay and just how he's processing and how he's going through this as well.
Hey, everybody. Man, I typically, when you see me in front of you, I'm talking a lot typically, and I'm usually not at a loss for words, but I have been in a constant sort of loss for words during the last month or so. And I don't mean just now in this moment, but seriously, for like a month. Every time we've had a lot of these conversations, you know, and spoken with our staff, and each and every time it's been hard for me to muster the right words, because it feels like words fall short, and they fall short of how grateful I am for just this entire story and the way God's unfolded the story. And Steve and Dana are obviously a hugely important part of that story. And you know, I was thinking about this earlier today. We all, the three of us, along with some of our other staff, we spend a lot of time together. We see each other all the time. I mean, all the time, almost every day. And I realized today, for you all, you actually don't see the three of us together like this. I mean, maybe never. Maybe never. And so my assumption is that you've assumed that we have a good relationship and they probably like each other. So I thought this might be a good opportunity to let you know what it's really like.
Wait a minute.
I know, yeah.
Can we stop?
But in all honesty and in all seriousness, what it's really like, I just feel so incredibly indebted to the both of you for so much. Steve and I have known each other for 7, 8 years now, before I was on staff here at WesGate the first time. And you have affirmed me and encouraged me, not just with your words, but with the risks you've taken with me, the opportunities you've given me, and your words. So in word and in deed, you've helped me see things in myself that I didn't see in myself. And this is something very few people know, but Dana, for many years, but especially in the last year and a half, and I've told you this many times, but I can't tell you enough just how grateful I am for the way that you've seen me and listened and let me complain about Steve in a non-judgmental environment. And all of those things have shaped me profoundly. And so I'm just so grateful to the two of you, grateful to our elders, immensely grateful to our staff, and grateful for all of you. Each and every person that calls WesGate home, and each and every person that's just checking things out and taking that big, grand risk to step foot into a church at Casa de Fe or at South Hills. It means the world. And I'm honored and humbled and in awe of the way that God weaves broken stories together, truly together, to tell a story that none of us could tell on our own. It's one of the things that I've always loved about WesGate Church, is that it has never, as big of a personality as Steve is, this community has never ever once felt to me like a place built on a personality. It has felt like a community of people striving together to become a family who love God deeply, love one another deeply, and do our very best to love our neighbors. And if I didn't work here, I would still go here and be a part of this church. And that is a gift to be able to say. I've been reading this book by Henry Nouwen called In the Name of Jesus, which is Nouwen's short reflections on Christian leadership. And I've been struck by this one section. I just thought I would read it to you. He says this. He says that when we live in the world with the knowledge that Christ really loves us, we cannot do other than bring healing and hope wherever we go. And the desire to be relevant or successful, it'll gradually disappear, and our only desire will be to say with our whole being to our brothers and sisters of the human race, you are loved, there's no reason to be afraid. WesGate, you are a community bringing healing and hope to a world in need. And the way you've done that for me and my family has been life-changing for us. And the way, Steve and Dana, you've done that for me, not as a pastor or as a leader, but just as a man. You call me a young man. I'm actually like a middle-aged man.
You're young from where I'm sitting.
But the way you've done that for me has been life-changing, and I'm grateful that it will continue to be life-changing for me. So I'm grateful to the two of you. I'm grateful to all of you. And, I've said this to our staff already. I owe everything to Jesus, but I owe much to the two of you and to you, our church. And I'm so excited and anticipate with expectant hope what God will do in the coming months and years, and how He will weave our stories all together to continue writing a story through the life of our church, a story that we could not write on our own. Yeah. And so onward.
Yeah. And I just want to tell you, you're already familiar with the extraordinary gift that God has given Jay for communication. You've read some of the things that he's written, and you've heard him speak and preach. And like me, you have stood in awe of the gift. But I want to just tell you that it's not about giftedness alone. The character that this guy has demonstrated to our elders here and to Dana and I personally, I vouch for him. He's the real deal. He and his wife, Jenny, are deeply trying to walk with Jesus on a day-to-day basis. Not perfectly, no one's doing that. But they're doing it authentically, they're doing it with eyes for the world, and they're doing it humbly. And you're being placed in such good hands under his leadership. I just affirm that, and I'm really excited about it.
And I just want to say, even when Jay was here with us before, there was always just a wisdom in the way he spoke. And people, that commercial when some E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen, or whoever it was. When Jay spoke, people listened. And I think that it is not because he commanded and said, hey, you need to listen to me. It was just because there was that depth and wisdom there. Yeah. And the leadership gift. But I also want to say that you are loved, and we're so thankful. We're thankful that you allow us and want us to still be around. Yeah. But also to you, WesGate, it's not without any emotion that the change happens, because you are deeply a part of our lives and have been for almost half of our marriage, and our boys growing up and our grandchildren being born in the midst of your journeying with us. And I want you to know that we see this as God's clear direction, but it will shift and it will change. And there is some loss and sadness because of that. And that's all okay.
It's all okay.
good.
Okay, so this is how it works as we move forward. The polity of our church says that in our governance that we need to have a vote. The elders have already unanimously affirmed Jay as the next lead pastor and are presenting to him to you now. Over the next several weeks until January 9th, you'll have the opportunity to have your concerns and your questions addressed. We'll do our best to respond to them. And we would ask you to please take the effort. If you've got some things that are bothering you about it or some questions that you'd like to know, please take the time to work through those. And then please also join us all that between now and January 9th, we will pray like crazy. For God's will for us, for His protection over this transition, and for His protection over Dana and I and Jay and Jenny and his family as well. And then on January 9th, we'll gather, we'll have a normal church service, and in that church service, we will allow for voting of 640 disciples. We'll have the opportunity to vote. Those who are online, we'll have a mechanism. We'll be able to tell you about that in advance. We don't know yet what that is, but there will also be an opportunity to vote online if you're a 640 disciple. So at that time on January 9th, I'm anticipating a clear word from you that Jay is our guy, and that we'll have that vote and do that on January 9th. And then on January 16th, we'll do what's called an installation service, where we'll just name him as what he is and as our lead guy. And so that's the information that you'll need between now and then. Concerns, if you have them, and certainly you might. If you do, get them addressed, questions, get them answered. And then please pray with us between now and the 9th, that God might protect us as we're in this vulnerable transition, and that He might energize us in a way that we become all that He intends for us to be in the coming years. Thank you for joining us, listening to this. Thanks for all that you've done co-working with us. We just look for great days ahead.